What if the year ahead is not meant to be louder, faster, or more demanding, but quieter, clearer, and deeply your own? What if 2026 is not about fixing yourself, proving yourself, or becoming someone new, but about finally returning to who you have always been? Most of your life, you were taught to focus outward on expectations, responsibilities, and the opinions of others. You learned to measure your worth by productivity, approval, and comparison. But Buddhist wisdom offers a gentler invitation to turn your attention inward, not out of selfishness, but out of understanding. This is not a call to escape the world. It is a reminder that peace begins within you. These are 10 powerful Buddhist lessons to help you focus on yourself in 2026, not to isolate, but to heal, clarify, and live with quiet strength. Listen slowly. Let the words meet you where you are. Let us begin. Lesson 1. Stop abandoning yourself to please others. One of the deepest forms of suffering is not caused by loss or failure. It is caused by self-abandonment. For many years, you may have learned to silence your own needs in order to keep peace, maintain harmony, or avoid conflict. You learned to say yes when your heart wanted to say no. You learned to adjust yourself to fit into spaces that never truly honored you. Over time, this becomes a habit so subtle that you stop noticing it. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises when we live in contradiction to our true nature. Each time you ignore your inner voice, you create a small fracture within yourself. One moment alone does not break you, but years of it can leave you feeling disconnected, tired, and quietly resentful. Focusing on yourself in 2026 begins with a gentle but radical shift, choosing honesty over approval. This does not mean becoming harsh or selfish. It means recognizing that your inner experience matters. The Buddha taught the importance of right intention, acting from clarity rather than fear. When your choices are driven by fear of rejection or guilt, they slowly drain your life force. Ask yourself, when was the last time I checked in with myself before agreeing? Who benefits when I ignore my own limits? What am I afraid will happen if I honor my truth? You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to set boundaries without explaining yourself. You are allowed to disappoint others rather than betray yourself. In Buddhist practice, compassion begins within. If you cannot extend understanding to your own heart, you will eventually exhaust yourself trying to care for everyone else. Focusing on yourself is not selfish, it is responsible. A well-tended mind becomes a refuge, not only for you, but for others. In 2026, try this quiet practice. Before responding to any request, pause, take one breath. Ask yourself, does this align with my energy and values right now? Let that answer guide you. Each time you choose yourself with kindness, you come home a little more, and peace begins to feel natural again. Lesson 2. Detach from comparison and walk your own path. Comparison is one of the most subtle thieves of peace. You may not notice it at first. It appears as a passing thought while scrolling, a quiet judgment when hearing someone else's success, or a question whispered in the mind, "Am I doing enough?" Over time, comparison becomes a lens through which you view your entire life. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises when the mind grasps at ideas of more and less, ahead and behind. But the truth is simple. There is no universal timeline for awakening, healing, or fulfillment. Your path unfolds according to conditions unique to you. When you compare your life to another's, you compare surface to depth. You see their highlights, not their struggles. You see outcomes, not the invisible cost. This illusion creates unnecessary pressure, and pressure clouds wisdom. The Buddha never taught competition. He taught awareness. Focusing on yourself in 2026 means releasing the habit of measuring your worth against external markers. Your growth cannot be quantified by milestones alone. Some seasons are meant for expansion. Others are meant for rest, reflection, and quiet integration. Ask yourself, who am I becoming when no one is watching? What feels meaningful to me, even if it looks ordinary to others? What pace allows me to breathe? Comparison pulls you into imagined futures and fabricated standards. Presence brings you back to what is real. The moment you stop racing against others, your nervous system softens. You realize that you are not late, you are not behind, you are exactly where your life has led you. Buddhism reminds us that each being has their own karma, their own causes and conditions. To envy another's path is to misunderstand your own. In 2026, practice silent appreciation instead of comparison. When you notice envy arise, gently say to yourself, "This is their path. I am walking mine." No judgment, no suppression, just awareness. Your journey does not need validation to be valuable. Your pace does not need explanation to be right. When you stop comparing, energy returns, clarity follows, and the quiet confidence of walking your own path begins to grow. Lesson 3. Learn to be alone without feeling lonely. Many people fear being alone, not because solitude is painful, but because it exposes what has been ignored. In a world that constantly pulls your attention outward, silence can feel unfamiliar. When distractions fade, thoughts surface, emotions speak, old wounds gently knock. Because of this, many people fill every quiet space with noise, conversation, or stimulation. But Buddhism teaches that solitude is not emptiness, it is clarity. Being alone does not mean you are unloved or disconnected. It means you are meeting yourself without interference. Loneliness arises not from the absence of others, but from the absence of presence. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone if you are not at home within yourself. Focusing on yourself in 2026 means learning the art of conscious solitude. The Buddha spent long periods alone, not to escape the world, but to understand the mind. In stillness, you begin to see clearly. You notice which thoughts repeat, which emotions linger, which fears soften when you stop resisting them. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding by staying busy? How do I feel when I am truly alone? What part of me is asking for attention? Solitude gives you the space to listen without judgment. You don't need to fix anything, you simply observe. Over time, this gentle awareness transforms loneliness into companionship with yourself. In Buddhism, the mind is trained to become a friend rather than an enemy. When you can sit quietly with your own thoughts without immediately reacting or escaping, something shifts. You realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness holding them. In 2026, practice small moments of intentional solitude. Sit without your phone. Take a walk without music. Drink tea without distraction. Let silence speak. You may discover that the peace you were seeking from others has always lived inside you. And when you no longer fear being alone, your relationships become choices, not emotional necessities. Solitude becomes nourishment, stillness becomes strength, and you carry calm wherever you go. Lesson 4. Release the need to control what is not yours to carry. Much of your mental exhaustion comes from trying to control outcomes that were never meant to be controlled. You worry about how others perceive you. You replay conversations. You imagine future scenarios. You attempt to manage reactions, emotions, and events far beyond your reach. Slowly, the mind tightens. The body follows. Buddhism teaches a profound truth. Suffering increases when we cling to control. There is a difference between responsibility and burden. Responsibility asks for presence and effort. Burden demands prediction, perfection, and certainty. The Buddha reminded us that life unfolds according to countless conditions, most of which are not yours to manage. Focusing on yourself in 2026 means learning where your influence ends and where surrender begins. Ask yourself, is this truly mine to fix? Am I acting from wisdom or fear? What happens if I let this unfold naturally? Letting go of control does not mean becoming passive. It means releasing the illusion that peace comes from managing everything. Peace arises when you respond skillfully to what is in front of you, without demanding a specific outcome. When you release control, the nervous system relaxes. You stop bracing against life. You begin to trust your ability to adapt rather than predict. The Buddha taught the middle way, neither force nor avoidance. Do what you can with clarity, then allow the rest to unfold. This balance protects your energy and sharpens your awareness. In 2026, try this grounding practice. When anxiety arises, place a hand on your chest and silently say, "This moment does not require control. It requires presence." You will notice how much tension softens when you stop arguing with reality. Life becomes less heavy. Decisions feel clearer. You respond instead of react. You are not here to carry the weight of the world. You are here to walk with it lightly. When control loosens, wisdom steps in, and peace follows naturally. Lesson 5. Heal before you harden. Unhealed pain does not disappear with time. It waits. It waits in your reactions, in your defensiveness, in the walls you build without realizing it. Many people mistake emotional distance for strength. They believe that becoming numb is the same as becoming wise. But Buddhism teaches something gentler and more honest. True strength comes from healing, not hardening. Focusing on yourself in 2026 means turning toward your wounds with compassion instead of avoidance. Pain that is ignored does not rest, it leaks. It shows up as impatience, as mistrust, as emotional fatigue. You may notice that certain situations trigger reactions that feel bigger than the moment. That is not weakness. That is an unhealed part of you asking to be seen. The Buddha taught that awareness is the first step toward liberation. When you name suffering without judgment, it begins to loosen its grip. Healing does not require reliving every memory. It requires presence with what is here now. Ask yourself, what am I still protecting myself from? Where did I learn that vulnerability was unsafe? What emotion do I avoid feeling the most? Buddhism does not ask you to force forgiveness or rush closure. It asks you to sit with what arises gently, patiently. Healing unfolds when resistance softens. In 2026, choose healing over emotional armor. Choose curiosity over self-criticism. You may notice grief you never allowed yourself to feel, anger that was silenced, sadness that was postponed. Let these emotions move through you like weather, without identifying with them, without pushing them away. Healing is not about becoming someone else. It is about reclaiming parts of yourself that went quiet. As healing deepens, your nervous system settles. You stop reacting from old wounds. You begin responding from clarity. Relationships shift. Boundaries feel natural. You no longer confuse familiarity with safety. The Buddha taught that suffering ends not when life becomes perfect, but when the mind stops fighting its own experience. In 2026, allow yourself to soften. Softness is not weakness. It is wisdom that has learned how to listen. Lesson 6. Simplify your life to hear your inner voice. When life becomes noisy, wisdom speaks softly. Many people feel disconnected not because they lack insight, but because they are overwhelmed. Too many choices, too many commitments, too much information. The mind becomes crowded and clarity gets lost in the noise. Buddhism teaches simplicity, not as deprivation, but as devotion to what matters. Focusing on yourself in 2026 means gently reducing what pulls you away from presence. Not everything needs your attention. Not every invitation requires a yes. Not every opinion deserves space in your mind. The Buddha lived simply to see clearly. When excess falls away, truth becomes easier to hear. Ask yourself, what drains my energy daily? What do I maintain out of habit rather than meaning? What would life feel like with less, not more? Simplicity begins internally. It is the decision to stop rehearsing conversations that may never happen, to stop consuming information that leaves you anxious rather than informed, to stop measuring your life against endless standards. Externally, simplicity may look like fewer commitments, a calmer schedule, a quieter environment, but internally it feels like relief. In 2026, try this practice. Each week, remove one thing that adds unnecessary pressure, an obligation, a habit, a mental pattern. Notice the space it creates. In Buddhism, emptiness is not lack, it is openness. When your life simplifies, your inner voice grows stronger. You begin to recognize intuition not as urgency, but as calm clarity. Decisions feel lighter. Priorities become obvious. You don't need to withdraw from the world to live simply. You only need to choose presence over excess. A simpler life allows wisdom to breathe, and peace returns without effort. Lesson 7. Practice non-attachment without closing your heart. Non-attachment is one of the most misunderstood teachings in Buddhism. It does not mean indifference. It does not mean detachment from love. It means loving without clinging. Many people fear loss so deeply that they grip tightly to people, roles, identities, and outcomes. This clinging creates anxiety. It turns love into fear, presence into control. The Buddha taught that attachment binds the mind, non-attachment frees it. Focusing on yourself in 2026 means learning to care deeply without losing yourself in what you care about. Ask yourself, what am I afraid to lose? What am I holding on to out of fear rather than love? Who am I without this attachment? Non-attachment invites trust. Trust in impermanence. Trust in your resilience. Trust that you can experience love fully without demanding permanence. When you practice non-attachment, relationships become lighter. You show up with presence rather than expectation. You allow people to be who they are, not who you need them to be. This does not diminish love, it purifies it. In Buddhism, love is strongest when it is free, when it is not bound by fear of abandonment or control, when it flows naturally without grasping. In 2026, practice loving presence. Listen without fixing. Care without controlling. Show up without losing yourself. You may find that when attachment loosens, connection deepens. You enjoy moments more fully because you are not busy trying to preserve them. Nothing needs to be held tightly to be meaningful. Some things are meant to be experienced, not possessed. Non-attachment is not distance, it is trust. Lesson 8. Release the identity you've outgrown. You are allowed to change. One of the most subtle obstacles to inner peace is the identity you no longer fit into but continue to wear. Over the years, you have played many roles. You have been the responsible one, the strong one, the achiever, the caretaker, the fixer, the one who holds everything together. At one time, these identities may have protected you. They gave structure to your life. They helped you survive, belong, and be valued. But Buddhism reminds us of a quiet truth. What once helped you can later limit you. Suffering arises when we cling to an image of who we think we must be. The mind says, "This is who I am," even when life is gently asking for change. You may feel tension, exhaustion, or a sense of being stuck, not because you are failing, but because you are evolving. Focusing on yourself in 2026 means giving yourself permission to change without guilt. Ask yourself honestly, Who do I keep being out of habit, not truth? What role am I still playing that no longer feels alive? Who might I become if I stopped clinging to who I was? The Buddha taught the principle of non-self, anatta, the understanding that the self is not a fixed object, but a flowing process. You are not a finished identity. You are a living movement of causes and conditions. When you cling to a rigid idea of yourself, you resist life itself. This is why growth can feel uncomfortable. It asks you to loosen what feels familiar. You might notice fear arise. If I change, will I still be accepted? If I let go of this identity, who am I? If I stop being this version of myself, will I lose my place? These fears are natural, but they are not warnings, they are thresholds. In 2026, allow yourself to gently question the stories you tell about who you are. Not to erase your past, but to release its authority over your present. You are not required to keep proving an identity you have already lived. You can be softer than you used to be. You can want different things now. You can redefine success, strength, and purpose. Buddhism teaches that clinging to identity is another form of attachment, and attachment, even to a positive self-image, creates suffering. Freedom comes when you allow yourself to be fluid. Try this reflection. Instead of saying, "This is who I am," say, "This is who I am right now." That small shift opens space. You may find that you no longer resonate with old ambitions, social roles, or expectations placed on you. This does not mean you are lost. It means you are listening more closely to your inner truth. When you release an outdated identity, you don't become empty. You become available. Available for rest. Available for curiosity. Available for new ways of being that feel more aligned and less forced. There is deep peace in no longer needing to explain yourself to the past. In 2026, let your life be guided less by labels and more by awareness. Instead of asking, "Who should I be?" ask, "What feels honest right now?" You are not betraying who you were. You are honoring who you are becoming. And Buddhism reminds us, awakening does not happen by becoming someone else. It happens by releasing what you are no longer meant to carry. When you loosen your grip on identity, the heart relaxes, the mind becomes lighter, and you begin to move through life with quiet authenticity. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to outgrow the versions of yourself that no longer serve your peace. This too is wisdom. Lesson 9. Return to yourself, again and again. Self-focus is a practice, not a destination. There is a quiet misunderstanding about focusing on yourself. Many people think it is something you do once, make a decision, change a habit, set boundaries, and then you are done. But Buddhism teaches something gentler and more realistic. Returning to yourself is a lifelong practice. Even with wisdom, the mind wanders. Even with intention, attention drifts outward. Even with awareness, you forget yourself sometimes. This is not failure. This is being human. In 2026, the lesson is not to become perfectly centered. The lesson is to notice when you are not, and to return without judgment. The Buddha never taught perfection, he taught awareness. Each moment you realize you have abandoned yourself is already a moment of awakening. You may notice that you are living on autopilot, overcommitting again, absorbing other people's stress, seeking validation without realizing it. When this happens, do not criticize yourself. Simply pause and say, I have drifted, I can return. Returning to yourself does not require a retreat or silence or dramatic change. It happens in small moments. A conscious breath, a pause before responding, choosing rest instead of pushing, listening to your body instead of your fear. The practice is simple but profound. Notice, return, repeat. Buddhism calls this mindfulness, not as a concept, but as a way of living. Mindfulness is not being calm all the time. It is being aware of where your mind is resting. In 2026, your world will likely move faster. Trends will change. News will overwhelm. Expectations will multiply. Your ability to return to yourself will be your refuge. Ask yourself gently throughout the day, where is my attention right now? Is it nourishing me or draining me? If the answer is draining, you don't need to fix everything. You only need to come back. Come back to your breath. Come back to your body. Come back to the present moment. There is a Buddhist image of the mind like a puppy learning to walk on a leash. It wanders, pulls, gets distracted. The practice is not to punish the puppy, but to guide it back, again and again, with patience. Treat yourself the same way. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not broken for forgetting. Every return strengthens your relationship with yourself. Over time, something subtle happens. You don't stay lost as long. You notice sooner. You recover faster. This is how self-focus matures, not into self-obsession, but into self-respect. You stop abandoning yourself in conversations. You stop ignoring your needs. You stop living only in reaction. And slowly, quietly, you begin to feel at home within yourself. That is the real practice. That is the real victory. Not staying centered forever, but always knowing the way back. Lesson 10. Let 2026 be the year you live gently. Your softness is not a weakness. The final lesson is the one that holds all the others together. In 2026, focus on yourself not by hardening, but by softening. The world often teaches us that to survive, we must be tough, that we must push, defend, compete, and endure. But Buddhism offers a different truth. Gentleness is not weakness. Gentleness is wisdom in action. To live gently means to stop forcing yourself to be someone you are not. It means no longer measuring your worth by struggle. It means allowing your life to unfold without constant resistance. Gentleness begins with how you speak to yourself. Notice your inner voice. Is it harsh? Is it demanding? Is it never satisfied? In 2026, make a quiet decision. I will not be at war with myself anymore. You can still grow without cruelty. You can still change without punishment. You can still improve without self-rejection. The Buddha taught the middle way, a path between extremes, not indulgence, not deprivation, balance. Living gently means choosing balance again and again. It means resting before you burn out. It means listening to your body instead of overriding it. It means letting go of urgency that is not truly necessary. You are allowed to move slowly. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to protect your energy. Gentleness also changes how you relate to others. When you stop being harsh with yourself, you naturally become more patient with the world. You listen more. You react less. You no longer need to prove your strength. Your calm becomes your presence. Your presence becomes your influence. This is one of the deepest Buddhist truths. Inner peace is not passive. It quietly transforms everything it touches. In 2026, you don't need to dominate conversations. You don't need to win arguments. You don't need to keep up with every demand. You only need to remain connected to yourself. Let your life be shaped by intention, not pressure. Let your days be guided by awareness, not fear. Each morning you might ask, how can I be gentle with myself today? And each night, where did I honor my limits? These questions are not small, they are revolutionary. Because when you live gently, you live sustainably. You stop breaking yourself for the sake of expectations. You stop sacrificing peace for approval. And over time, you realize something beautiful. Focusing on yourself did not make you smaller. It made you clearer, kinder, more present. You become someone others feel safe around, not because you try, but because you are at ease within yourself. Let 2026 be the year you stop abandoning your inner world. Let it be the year you choose depth over noise, presence over performance, gentleness over force. You are not here to exhaust yourself. You are here to awaken gently. As you step into 2026, remember this. Focusing on yourself is not a selfish act. It is an act of clarity. When you know yourself, you stop living on autopilot. When you respect yourself, you stop accepting what drains you. When you return to yourself again and again, life becomes quieter and more meaningful. You don't need to become someone new this year. You only need to come back to who you already are. If these Buddhist lessons brought you a sense of calm, reflection, or insight, allow them to guide your days gently. Let them unfold slowly, like breath. If you wish to continue this journey of mindfulness, self-awareness, and Buddhist wisdom, consider staying connected with this channel. Your presence supports a space of stillness in a noisy world. Thank you for listening. May you move through 2026 with clarity. May you treat yourself with kindness. May you live gently and fully. Until next time, breathe slowly, return to yourself, and walk your path with quiet strength.